Greetings, old school magic players, and welcome to the Four Horsemen. Greetings, old school magic players. Welcome to another episode of the Four Horsemen. I'm the Chadster, and I'm joined here today with Tim Kincaid, and we're going to be taking you through the last of our tournament number 20 quarter finals. We have a top 8 match today from Spicy Brews, and we're going to get into the decks. Tournament number 20. Running April 4th through May 11th. We are on the last stretch of this part of the tournament. And it's been a really interesting event overall. A lot of spicy brews, 36 players, tons of old school action. And let's get into the match here in just a minute. Four Horsemen Old School Magic is the only old school magic players group that focuses exclusively on Arabian Nights, Antiquities, Legends, and the Dark. The first 4 original 1993-94 Magic the Gathering expansion sets. Check us out at fourhorsemenmagic.com. A lot of cards that don't see play in any other old school magic format see play in Four Horsemen. We have a unique band of restricted list. You can see here great prizes for our tournament top 8 semifinalists and our first place champion, including our Ken Meyer Jr. unique custom art Guardian Beast playmat. For the details on this tournament, you can go to fourhorsemenmagic.com/tournament20 and check out all the details. This band of restricted list is really customized to balance out this format. A lot of cards that we don't necessarily see restricted in other formats are restricted here to keep the play fair and balanced. Hey Tim, are you with me?
Hey, what's up, Chad? I'm here.
Hey man, thanks for joining me today. We're going to be getting into the brackets here, and I want to just kind of do some basic deck reviews with you, Tim. The brackets are as you see here, and the match that we're going to be covering today is Jonathan King versus Luke Fetter. And Luke is one of the newer players. Jonathan's been with us for quite a while. Luke's been up and coming in Four Horsemen, and Jonathan has been consistently making top 8, but he's made it into the quarterfinals in this tournament. And Tim and I are going to get into the decks here. For today's deck overview, we have Jonathan's Dark Heart Naya versus Luke's Erhnams Minions. Tim, let's talk about Jonathan's Dark Heart Naya deck. What do you think about this brew?
Oh, I'm really excited about this match, Chad. Thanks for asking me to come in and watch the game with you and talk about it.
Yeah,
I like Jonathan's deck. He's been working on this type of deck now. It seems at least for maybe 2, maybe 3 tournaments. I think his list is really solid. Like he's got some artifact removal with the Scavenger Folk, the detonates. He went down on the Elves of Deep Shadow a little bit. He's got a main deck Shatterstorm and a main deck Desert Twister. He's got the Drop of Honey this month instead of the Abyss, like you talked about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's made some good tweaks and improvements, right? And he's got some functional stuff, having the 2 Falling Star, the main deck Shatterstorm, that 1-off Desert Twister, and also running a main deck Felden's Cane, a couple of Pyrotechnics. It's really rounded out his kind of tools and functionality. The couple of cards that I kind of raise an eyebrow at here are these 2 Bloodlusts. What do you think's going on with these 2 Bloodlusts in this deck?
He's got a lot of little guys. I mean, he has 4 Erhnams and 4 Rooks, but his little guys, his 1/1s, I see he's got a Pendlehaven to help beef them up. I think the Bloodlust is just there with Drop of Honey. It can work as a way to make his power higher on a creature so that the drop kills his opponent's creature, but not his.
Yeah,
If that can be sometimes useful.
that's a good point.
And it can also just double as an extra burn spell to get some damage through with little guys, or let a Ruck Egg can actually attack if that's all he has, then it can do 4 damage. So
Yeah.
I like the 2 Bloodlusts with the burn package with the pyrotechnics, the chain lightnings, 2 detonates. That's quite a bit of burn, and he also has I see a couple of cool lands I didn't see last month: the Diamond Valley and the Pendlehaven. What do you think about those lands in his deck?
Yeah, I mean, Diamond Valley is such a powerhouse. In fact, we've seen it show up in a lot of the other top 8 Tournament 20 matches. It's one of these cards where if you have it and your opponent doesn't, you have an immense advantage, because every single creature you lose is a life gain, whereas your opponent doesn't have that life gain option. As John Eckleberry and I have talked about in a lot of the prior tournament commentaries, life gain is one of the key pivotal strategies. It's not very relevant in Swedish or Atlantic or Eternal Central. Sometimes you'll see it come into play strategically in 7-point Singleton, but we don't see life gain as this pivotal strategy in a lot of the other formats. In Four Horsemen, it really is a fundamental strategy of the game, and that's why we see cards like Dark Heart of the Wood and Ivory Tower and Diamond Valley have had to be restricted because they're so powerful.
Yeah, and I think with 4, I think it's good that you guys have restricted it, Chad. But I think with 4 Ruck Egg, it's almost like it's hard not to play it. And, and 4 Erhnam Gen, that's 5 toughness creatures, and he cracks that egg. And his list, Jonathan, I really like what Jonathan has done this month. I think Jonathan you said he was top 8 or semifinals. Was it semis that he played me last?
Yeah, he's made top 8 a few times with different decks. He's been playing this deck. I think this is the 3rd tournament in a row since tournament 17. He's been running this. He's refined it a little bit each event, and he was undefeated in his group. We had 36 players in tournament 20. 6 groups of 6 players each, so he was basically undefeated in his group and made it through the top 16 as well. And now here in the top 8, he's facing some a little bit more competition, as is natural, as you move through the brackets. This brew is very well rounded. It's got a lot of functionality, a lot of tools, and it'll be interesting to see how this deck stands up against Luke's deck.
Agreed. Yeah, I like his toolbox.
Yeah. The sideboard here is interesting too. There's a couple of concordants to deal with the Abyss, an extra Falling Star, there's an extra Desert Twister in there, a couple Crumbles, 3 Dervish, and then of course the obligatory 4 active Volcanoes, which are so good, instantly against any blue card. I like his sideboard, although it's interesting. He's highly dependent on enchantments, including his land tax, his Dark Heart, Drop of Honey, Sylvan Library. It's interesting that he's actually running Presence of the Master, 2 of in the board. What do you think's going on there?
Yeah, you're right. He does have quite a few enchantments in his main deck. But I think he wins the games ultimately with his creature package, his burn and his aggro. And I think the enchantments in his main deck are just there to just give him some staying power, and to give him added survivability if the games go late. But I don't think he has to have those to win. He just wants to earn them, burn them, turn them sideways, and do damage. And I think he can sub that out against, since he only has 5, that's 5 enchantments main deck. He could easily bring the Presence of the Master in against a deck that's running 10 or 15 enchantments, or a control strategy.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, looking over at his mana base is very suspect to me. I really question. I mean, this is effectively, a black, white, red, green deck. This is a 4-color deck, and it's very similar to some of the other decks that were starting to really take over, starting in Tournament 15 with this Dark Heart, engine type strategy. And Brian Weissman in his commentary for Tournament 17, he looked at some of those other decks and was like, how are you playing a 4-color deck on 20 lands? It's kind of crazy, right? Only 1 Fellwar Stone, 2 Elves of Deep Shadow, 20 lands. If you look at the Hammerheim there in the top, in that row in the 3rd column, and then there's 1 Pendelhaven. The Diamond Valley and the Maze of Ith don't tap for mana. So this deck has 20 lands and 23 mana sources if you include the 2 elves and the Fellwar Stone. If you don't get land tax in your opening hand or very early, I think this deck's going to have a huge problem with mana. If you get Blood Mooned with this deck, the only thing you're going to have is your forests and your one-off plains. You still have all your red, which if it's late game and you've got your basics down, Blood Moon's not going to hurt you. But if someone plays a turn 1 elf and a turn 2 Blood Moon, which is completely normal in Four Horsemen, you're going to have a real problem with your mana base. So not only do I think he's really pushing the limits on the mana, but I think it's very greedy, and I think could be prone to getting mana screwed if he's not careful.
Yeah, I guess I'm just counting that up now that you mention it. The only thing that seems like maybe it could use some adjusting in Jonathan's deck to me is, I guess, maybe the mana base. It's I don't know how many white sources. I see 2 cities, 2 plateaus, and is that a plains and that's a Badlands, right?
That's right. Yeah, he's got his white sources are exactly what you pointed out. 2 plateaus, 1 basic plains, and 2 city of brass. So there are 5 mana sources, only 1 of which is a basic land. So imagine him getting Blood Mooned early and never being able to even play land tax.
Well, if he gets Blood Moon, he may not cast the taxes, but everything else is red-green except for the Dark Heart. And the Dark Heart can be cast off the Elf, and he's got 5 basic forests, even with the Blood Moon, and even the basic. I wouldn't count on that basic plains, but the 5 forests, you think he's probably going to get green, and he's going to have tons of red. So he could cast everything but 3 spells, the 2 Tex and the Dark Heart. And so I don't know about the Blood Moon so much as I just think that this deck screams he needs 4 City of Brass as well.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
I know you hate to take the damage, but he has the Diamond Valley, he's got the Dark Heart and the Ivory Tower,
right?
Gain life. So I just think it has to have 4 City of Brass to be able to cast everything early.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I would say he could very easily just swap out these 2 Bloodlusts, which are just going to be some extra damage. I mean, they're very good with the Rook Egg. They're very good with early damage, but I don't think they're 100% needed in this deck, particularly when you got those Falling Stars. So he could very easily take out the 2 Bloodlust, put in an extra City of Brass, and put in another... he could just do 2 City of Brass right there, and that would really help him get his mana up. He'd go from 20 lands to 22, plus the 3 other sources, so he'd have 25 mana sources at that point. I'd feel a lot more comfortable with that.
That would work. Than the current that could work. Base. Or, I guess we'll have to see it in action and see how it performs for Jonathan.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to, can you get land tax out early and go fetch what you need? No basic swamps in this deck also kind of raises an eyebrow for me. Dark Heart is absolutely fundamental and critical to the life gain strategy of this deck. This deck does not work unless you have basically land tax, Dark Heart, Ivory Tower, and Sylvan Library. Those are the 4 interactive, strategy cards. And he can't play Dark Heart if he doesn't have a swamp. Now, he's got 2 Elves of Deep Shadow, but he has no basic swamp, which he may need if those elves get wiped out, which happens with Triskelion and things like that. So I would like to see at least 1 basic swamp in here in case he needs it for the Dark Heart at some point.
Or even a basic mountain to cast the Fissures or the Shadow Storm. You need double red, and if he has a taiga or a plateau, he might have 1 red, but he needs 2 red for that. So Yeah, that basic swamp is for one card, but he's got 3 double red cards, and he has a host of single red. So
Right.
even a mountain would be nice. I
Yeah,
think.
a basic mountain, a basic swamp. So these are some, we're getting hyper scrutinous here, but these are some of the things that these slight little tweaks can make a huge difference when you get down to these competitive, quarterfinal brackets.
He's got a great deck. He's got a really cool toolbox. I love how he's got these answers main deck, and he still has the Erhnam Burnham just damage.
Yeah.
Good cards.
Yeah, really fantastic deck.
Yeah.
All right, so with Jonathan's deck, Darkheart Naya reviewed, let's get into Luke Fetter's deck here. He specifically wanted to name this deck Erhnam's Minions, and it's a red-green stompy aggro deck, but wow, this is building on John DePro's Tournament 18 green stompy deck, I think was an inspiration for Luke. And he talked a little bit about how this came together. He started with mono green and then eventually added red for chains and curd apes and then went with the bloodlust route. He's just going all in on aggro. What do you think of this brew?
This is a really efficient looking aggro deck. It just screams consistent. He's even got the 4 Pendelhavens. He's got, looks like 20 1/1s. I mean, the dervish becomes bigger, hopefully, but or 16 if you don't count the dervish with the fire sprites, the elves, the dragonflies, and the scavenger folk. I love the 4 Pendelhaven with that. I don't know if you have to have 4 when this is an environment though that only plays 1 strip mine, but I get it. He wants to have Pendelhaven like every game.
Yeah.
In his opening hand.
Right.
I like it. He's got the 8 flyers, and those flyers are 2/3s with the Pendelhaven. That's nothing to scoff at.
Right.
On turn 2 and 3, and your opponent could get a dib out or something, but he has answers for that. I think maybe somewhere I'd be worried about the dib, but he don't have to worry about it against Jonathan.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that he has all those little flyers and 1/1s with 4 Pendelhaven, Chad.
Yeah, it really brings the value of the 1/1 creatures to the top of the strategy for this deck. He's got between the 4 dervish, the 4 elves of deep shadow, the 4 fire sprites, the 4 emerald dragonflies, and the 4 scavenger folks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's got 20 1/1s. So he is pretty much guaranteed to have a turn 1 or 2, 2/3 guy. If he's got a Pendelhaven and one of these other 20 creatures in his hand, and he's got 12 creatures that only cost 1 if you include the curd apes. So turn 1.
And they're all effectively curd apes.
Yes, that's right.
With the Pendelhaven,
everything's effectively a curd ape
for 1. Yeah.
Yeah, and these fire sprites here, these guys, they're playing off the script sprites from Alpha Beta Unlimited, but these fire sprites, they never get much love. I had them in a very early deck of mine way back in the early Four Horsemen days, and I found them really valuable also with Pendelhaven, and they can tap to get you a red. So if you happen to be short on red mana, you can pump a green into these guys, tap them, and convert it to red, and it can save you in these scenarios when you might need a chain lightning or something like that.
I love it, Chad. It's so good with Pendelhaven. People are starting to realize, and it's a mana fixer. You don't have like Bird of Paradise,
right?
Or some of these cards, but Fire Sprite. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but I had 4 Fire Sprite in an X Points old school deck. I'm planning to run next month in that tournament. I have 4 Fire Sprite with 4 Pendelhaven, so
yeah,
I can understand Luke's goal here with his deck, and that red mana fixing can be useful without having to. You don't have to play a bunch of mountains. He can just play the forest and keep his mana base very consistent with that card, so it's helpful.
Yeah.
The other flyer, the Emerald Dragonfly, one thing to note is, isn't it green first strike till end of turn?
Yeah, that's right. So it's green and 1 to cast it, so it only costs 1 green to put it in play, same as the fire sprites. And you pay green, pump it into it, and the dragonfly can gain first strike. So if you've got that bloodlust and you're able to cast bloodlust and pump double green, you'd have a 5/1 first striker.
That's what I was just going to point out is if the Bloodlust can take down any other big flyer in Arabians, just about, except for like, well, there's a couple guys, but it takes down the dibs and some of the important.
Yeah, it pretty much kills everything. It can kill Erhnam, Juzum. It can kill pretty much all the big fatties. Triskelion, Clockwork Avian. The only thing it can't take down would be Serendib Djinn.
Yeah, the 5/6 is what I was thinking. And then we saw somebody playing a Yawgmoth's demon deck, so a 6/6 flying first
Right.
strike.
But actually,
you don't see those too much.
It could take down the Serendib Djinn if you Pendlehaven it first, then it's a 2/3. Then you Bloodlust it. Now it's a 6/1, and then you double green first strike it. It's a 6/1 first striker in that trio combo there.
Oh yeah, very cool. Right. Pendle and then Bloodlust. Yeah.
And you've also got the chains. So if they do block with someone big, even if you don't have the Bloodlust, you can Pendlehaven the flyer. Like you said, it's effectively a flying Curdape, and that's 2 damage, and then you can finish off that opponent's creatures with 3 damage from the Chain Lightning after the combat step.
It's pretty good. I'm curious to see how it's going to perform when we see this match here with Jonathan's red-green versus this, because Luke has 8 flyers. I don't think Jonathan, he's got the Ruck Eggs, but we'll see how they stand up to these. But if he plays the Ruck Egg, these flyers can just fly right over.
That's right. Yeah, the Rooks are only good if you can light them up or sacrifice them somehow and get your 4/4 flyer. Let's take a quick look at Luke's sideboard, and then we'll get into the match. He's running Sylvan Library in the board, not in the main. He's got 3 Sandstorms. He's got 3 Desert Twisters, 3 Crumbles, 1 Concordant Crossroad, 2 Avoid Fates, a Falling Star, and an Artifact Blast. What do you think of this board?
Artifact Blast says, "You shall not play Triskelion and kill 3 of my guys." I like that. I think I would like to see another Artifact Blast with the dominance of Triskelion in this Four Horsemen meta. But I like that Artifact Blast for sure. The Avoid Fates, I guess that could stop boomerangs and things when he tries to Bloodlust a creature. Or it stops an enchantment too, right? It could stop Spirit Link, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it could definitely stop Spirit Link. It's good against Boomerang. It's a tricky card to play, but when you're when you're running blue, Boomerang's often a better option, or even the card you and I have been talking about, Flash Counter. But in this green-red deck, Avoid Fate is the only thing you have in terms of instants to protect your creatures. I've been seeing things like Safe Haven, or things like City of Shadows, or even a Diamond Valley can often be better in terms of your land, because it's got multi-function and can be used over and over, whereas the Avoid Fate is like a one and done kind of thing. If you have the Safe Haven and they try to put Spirit Link on your creature, you could pop your dude in the Safe Haven. Even Tano's Coffin, in many ways, can be better, but the advantage of Avoid Fate is it's sneaky and it's only 1 green and it's an instant.
Yeah, it's tempo. It is tempo against certain types of strategies, like your white control Spirit Links, your Boomerang decks, when you Bloodlust and you're worried. You don't want them to get like a 2-for-1 effect.
Right.
But it is, I'm with you. I could see a Diamond Valley being very, very useful in this deck as well, with the Erhnams and the ability to make his guys all 3 toughness.
Yes, I mean he could gain 3 life off of every creature in this deck if he had Diamond Valley. I would kind of like to see the Diamond Valley in the board, if not in the main deck, if he's running Sylvan Library, because the Diamond Valley and Sylvan Library are really ideal together. You can sack creatures when you lose them or when you need to. You gain life, and you use that life to draw more cards. You get more dudes, and that engine feeds itself.
Yeah, like a Sylvan and a Diamond Valley main. Yeah, that would be nice, rather than in the board. And then he's got the artifact, standard artifact. Is that 2 or 3 Desert Twisters?
He's got 3 Desert Twisters, kind of behind his name there, and then there's 3 Sandstorms.
Okay, I'm not really sure what he's thinking the Sandstorms for. Maybe just other weenie, mono green or white weenie, or not. You don't see a ton of 1 toughness decks. This one is, I guess, if he thinks he's going to play a mirror match or another mono green.
Yeah, we have seen since John got that win at Tournament 18 with his Green Stompy deck, we've seen Green Stompy taking over. So maybe that's what those are for. You know,
I just think Falling Star is about 3 or 4 times as good as the Sandstorm.
Right. Yeah.
Just say play that instead of the Sandstorm.
Yeah, I think the Sandstorm is probably number one. I want to see the Sylvan Library in the main deck. I don't care how, focused you are on your creatures. You want this Sylvan Library so that you can draw. You're just trying to get more threats on the board, and I would like to see the Sylvan Library in the main. You could easily take out one of those Whirling Dervish and just run 3 Dervish and run that library. And if you're going to do that, you could easily run the Diamond Valley. You could take out one of the Bloodlusts or even the Maze of Ith. And run
one Scavenger Folk.
Or one Scavenger Folks. Yeah, you could tweak.
Because I don't think either of these decks are running heavy artifact. Luke has 0, and I think Jonathan has a Cane and an Ivory Tower and a Felwar Stone. So he can't kill the Cane. That's 2 targets. Felwar and Ivory Tower. So
yeah,
he could have. I mean, in this particular matchup, you could have done without a 4th Scavenger, but.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that 4th Scavenger in the board and pull out the Sandstorms. I'd like to see another Falling Star instead of that 3rd Sandstorm, and the Dervish is, he's pretty good, but a lot of these other creatures are going to be coming out turn 1 and able to, like the Elves, the Curd Apes, and the Scavengers. So. The Dervish themselves, I don't know. The double green might be a challenge depending on whether he's got a Taiga or something like that. I do like that he's got the 2 City of Brass to try and mitigate and be able to have the double green when he needs it.
Yeah. The one thing I was thinking about those Sandstorms, though, in Luke's defense, I guess they do take care of Ball Lightnings because Mono Red is a thing.
Yeah.
And so, a Bloodlusted Ball Lightning. I've been hit for 14 before in one of the Four Horsemen tournaments. Double Bloodlusted Ball Lightning. Yeah,
you're right.
I get it. That's another answer. Whereas Falling Star won't stop a 14-powered Ball Lightning.
That's right. Yeah, and the one thing that I'm wondering here is there are so many utility lands. Your opponent gets a Maze of Ith, a Diamond Valley, an Island of Whack Whack, a Workshop, a Factory, all these cards. One Blood Moon turns off all those lands. So, and he doesn't particularly, he doesn't particularly need his Maze of Ith if he's going all in on the aggro strategy. So, I'm kind of thinking instead of those 2 Avoid Fates in the board there, they're just not that great. I think those would be better off being Blood Moons, so that if he comes up against one of these decks with all the utility lands, or a deck like Jonathan's, where it's greedy mana base and all of the dual lands and stuff, very few basics, he could turn that off with a Blood Moon and give him the real advantage.
That could work. He would lose his Pendlehaven, but it might be worth it if you're going against, like you said, a greedy 4-color mana base. With 21.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is going to be a really interesting matchup. Jonathan King's Darkheart Naya versus Luke Fetter's Erhnams Minions. Let's switch over to the match. All right. I'm queued up here, Tim, and we'll count us down. Ready when you are.
Yep, I'm ready.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
Okay. I noticed something else, Chad, looking at those deck photos, that Luke has the same number of lands as Jonathan, 20 mana producing lands.
Yeah, pretty aggressive, but, the difference is Luke's deck can survive quite easily on 1 land, whereas Jonathan needs very specific mana combos and colors. So I'm okay with Luke running fewer lands, but I think it's very risky for Jonathan.
Right. I was gonna mention the same thing, but you already realized the same thing I had realized, that 4 colors usually need more mana than Luke's deck. It was basically just one color with a little light red splash.
Right.
And he has a lower curve.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like you said. So it looks like Jonathan's on the mulligan here.
Yeah, he's taking a mulligan.
He was short on lands, or who knows.
Yeah, right off the bat. I mean, this is a deck where, you know, you're gonna see a lot of mulligans when you're playing a 4-color deck with only 20 lands, and you know you're also trying to aggressively mulligan to get a first turn land tax. And you might be mulliganing quite a bit. You could mulligan 3 times and still recoup the lost cards if you can get the turn 1 land tax.
That's very true.
Let's see what Jonathan comes up with here. Okay, he bottoms 1 card, and Luke looks like he's on the play here. I love Luke's Force of Nature playmat. First turn.
It just screams mono green.
Yeah, we don't have Force of Nature, but we got Erhnam Djinns. And yeah, so turn 1, Forest into Dark Elves. That is very strong, but Jonathan does turn 1 Chain Lightning. Interesting. So he didn't have the land tax here.
It's like you just slow your roll there, Luke.
All right. Dervish coming down turn 2 with the Pendlehaven. That is strong. He's going to be hitting in with that next turn.
That's what he wants to see, that Pendle.
That's
I just hope he doesn't have 2 more in his hand right now.
That's right.
Ooh, just a 1/1/8, but the Diamond Valley makes me think that he doesn't have another mana producing land.
That's right. Yeah, he's very low on mana here.
Wow.
Which is what we were worried about. You know, he's got only 20 mana producing lands.
Oh, he did not swing that Dervish?
Well,
I'm could have made it a 2/3, and maybe he thought the ape was a 2/3.
Yeah,
but it's only a 1/1.
I think Luke made an error there. He could have got in against the 1/1/8 for sure.
Oh, yeah.
There's a strip mine. He takes out the Diamond Valley. Very smart to hit that, but it could be worth it to take out that plateau.
I probably would have hit the plateau right now.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Or I would have probably just waited to see if he played a forest, actually.
Oh, yeah.
So apes would stay 1/1s.
Right.
So he's still not swinging his 2/3 Dervish.
Yeah. Play errors. Multiple play errors here. He could have also pumped the flyer and made the flyer a 2/3. Why didn't he do that?
I think he thinks those apes are 2/3. He's thinking,
well, the flyer is in the
really
air.
2/3.
Okay, so he's saving the Pendlehaven to block with the Dervish.
He'll probably attack here pretty soon when he realizes they're 1/1s.
All right, so the Ivory Tower coming down for Jonathan here.
Jonathan probably knows at this point that Luke is thinking his apes are 2/3s.
Yeah, and he's obviously not volunteering the correction. Yeah. All right, so now he figures it out. Good job, Luke. Luke could have hit for probably, 4 more damage by this point if he had played this differently with that
That Dervish would be a 3/3 right now.
Yeah, the Dervish would be huge. And
he'd be untapped as a 4/4. It'd be like game over without a Maze of it.
Yeah.
Catch up with an Erhnam.
Right. Okay, so Pendlehavening the Dragonfly, that's 2 in the air, 2 on the ground, or 1 on the ground, and the Dervish gets the counter.
And that's the thing about Dervish. If your opponent stumbles a couple of turns, like it gets out of control fast, and there's not a lot of efficient red removal for a growing Dervish.
Right. That's a good point.
There's Fissure, and that's 5 mana in double turns.
So there's a Taiga that's going to really change things on the ground, but meanwhile, you know, there's 2 Emerald Dragonflies, so he's going to be taking at least 3 in the air. Jonathan elects to attack with both apes.
That's interesting. He only has 4 cards, so his tower's not gaining life. What does that tell me he has in his hand?
Well, he can't play anything. He probably has Erhnams and you know, Darkheart and things like that he can't put into play.
I'm so surprised he swings, because that Dervish is a 2/2 and those apes are 2/3, and he can block that Dervish now. But now he's going to let the Dervish become a 3/3.
Yeah, that's very confusing to me. I don't understand. Dervish number 2 coming down for Luke. Okay. And there's another Elves of Deep Shadow in the glare there.
Wow, what a fast hand for Luke.
Yeah, really fast. And you can tell here Jonathan is really struggling with exactly what I was worried about in the pregame, right? His mana base is so greedy and so slim Even now he gets an elf, but it's going to damage him to tap it.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have some games where he gets light land draws with this build, but he really just needs to get to like 4, by turn 3 or 4. That might be hard to do with his 23, granted the elves can die, the Felwar can be destroyed. Yeah, with the 20 land, that could be tricky.
Yeah. Well, it's coming back to haunt Jonathan here for sure. He's going to have to block the small dervish with one of the apes, or the big dervish, rather, it looks like.
So he didn't swing the other dervish. He got in for, looks like 3 flying.
Yeah.
So Jonathan's on 8. I don't know. He could get to 4 mana this turn, but he still can't answer those. He's got to answer those 3 damage worth of flying in the air. That's like a 3-turn clock.
Did he block the dervish with both of his curd apes together? Is that what happened?
He did. I believe the dervish was a 3/3.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Well, all right. So Jonathan is very.
Ooh, I was just thinking Jonathan needed the falling star.
Yes, and
wow,
there it is. Wow. So he takes a damage. Falling star is going to. If this, he could hit. Wow, he's got 6 cards. Could Jonathan hit them all?
Good grief. I've hit 5 before. I've never hit 6 with a falling star.
I've done it a few times, but it's very hard to do. You have to line them up exactly right, and you have to hit exactly right in the middle. He's gonna try it, it looks like, or maybe is he going...
This is gonna be exciting. I love that. I love the flipping cards of old school. Oh, he's doing all 6. Awesome.
Okay, so he's gonna have to see if he can hit. If he hits, everything will tap and take 3 damage.
Wow.
Here we go.
What's what
oh my goodness! What?
He hit them all.
Holy shit!
Jonathan, you're a king.
Jonathan the king.
Falling star king. Jonathan.
Wow. So this is just a total board wipe for Luke. That is just brutal.
I mean, what a sick flip for Jonathan, but that Whirling Dervish, the first one should have been like a 5/5 by now.
Exactly. If he had just attacked in early, it would have been able to survive. All right, well, Luke loses his entire army. He's got how many cards in hand? Just 1 card in hand here?
How ridiculous was that? How do you hit 6 cards with a falling star? It was perfect.
Okay, so Luke's just going to straight up chain lightning here. Do you target Jonathan, or do you take out that curd ape? Or maybe the elf?
I think you have to kill the ape.
I don't know. He's at 14, so he's got time. Oh wow, here's land tax. Now this is going to change things. Scavenger folk number 1 coming down.
I thought Jonathan was dead this game. I thought there's no way he's coming out, and he had the falling star, but I did not expect him to hit 6 creatures.
Yeah. Well, we don't have Wrath of God. We don't have Earthquake. We don't have Fireball or Disintegrate. We don't have Balance. There are many, many cards that we don't have. The only board wipes are things like Falling Star and Hellfire in Four Horsemen.
And I think, Hellfire is obviously fair because you got to pay. You would have had to pay like 12 life to kill all those creatures or something. But the Falling Star, I think it's also fair because I flipped on like 3 targets before and only hit 1 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So to flip on 6 and hit them all, it's probably. I've sit there and tried to practice my flips. I'm an old school.
Yeah, you got to practice them.
You got to practice your flips, right? I don't do it for hours, but I've set sometimes for a few minutes before a game and tried to do flips. And like I said, it's very rare that I can hit 5 targets.
Yeah, it's very hard. And meanwhile, Jonathan here is able to. He got the land tax down. He's really starting to recover in this match quite well. He's able to trigger the land tax, get him up to 6 cards with those 3 extra lands, gains 2 life off the Ivory Tower, takes the damage, and is able to play the Erhnam. This is why I was thinking that last turn. I think I would have taken out the elf, not the ape, because this is what I was worried about, getting an Erhnam with that extra elf mana. But he's got the mana anyway with his land tax.
Basically, he's lost after a 6-for-1. You just lose. Like, he had no cards. His board's gone. And the guy had 2 creatures and an Ivory Tower. it's pretty much game over.
Right.
Even if he drew, I don't know what he could even draw the next, like, what, Flyer Bloodlust or Flyer Bloodlust Chain Lightning.
I mean, he's definitely got some outs. I mean, but the life gain that's going on Jonathan's side, he land taxes for 3 more lands here. He goes up to 8 cards, gains 4 life during his upkeep, bringing him to 12. And he's really out of direct damage range now for Luke. It's going to be really, really difficult for Luke to come back from that Falling Star board wipe.
That tax was pretty big too there with the tower out.
Oh yeah, that's the combo that Jonathan's been waiting for. And if he had that tax earlier, this would have been a totally different game. But, you know, he was really struggling on the mana for the first, several turns.
So, my prediction then is that if Jonathan brings in his extra, he has what, 1 more Falling Star on the sideboard?
Oh. Yes, he's got another Falling Star on the board. That's right. Meanwhile, Pyrotechnics coming down, taking out the Dervish and damaging Luke directly, clearing the board.
Yeah, I mean, Luke's just dead. It's 6 for 1. He's dead next turn.
Oof.
He doesn't have any way to come back from that.
Well, I don't know. Like, he's not out of it completely, but it's looking really, really bad. He needs a Scavenger Folk or something to get rid of that Ivory Tower. He's got Erhnams of his own, right? And if he can get an Erhnam of his own down and get rid of the tower with a Scavenger Folk, he can get back in this game. Hammerheim coming down for Jonathan. Jonathan's sitting now on 14 life, while... Yes. Is he at 14 now? And Luke is down to 9.
Yeah. He has a flyer that can hit for 2, but he can't block an Erhnam, so that won't. So if he draws an Erhnam, he can block the Erhnam and take 2, or he can block a 1/1 and take 5.
Yeah. Next turn, he'll have enough mana. Maybe he can do his block Bloodlust first strike trick.
Well, if he just attacks with everything this turn, he'll fall to 2 without the Desert Twister. He still takes 2 from the Elf and the Scavenger.
Yeah, so he's got to block that Erhnam, and he's going to take the 2 down to 2, and he'll be dead next turn. So, wow, like that, Luke was in command and control of this game. Jonathan was struggling from his greedy mana base. A Falling Star hitting 6 cards on the flip by Jonathan totally turned the game around. Let's take a pause here, Tim, and let's look at the sideboards.
I got to make a couple comments before we get into that if Luke would have just saved that strip mine for the Taiga, like I said, to keep those apes from becoming 2/3s and keep them off green rather than the Diamond Valley. If he stripped the Taiga and then and just attacked with the Dervish into his 1/1 apes, 2/3 Dervish, I think he had the game pretty easily.
I think so. I think you're right, Tim. There were 3 or 4 major play errors. Number 1, he didn't strip the mana. That Diamond Valley might have gained, Jonathan a few life, but who cares, right? You get rid of the Taiga, or you get rid of that plateau, and he can't play the land tax. He can't play anything else for many turns. Meanwhile, he didn't attack with the Dervish, and he should have, and he didn't attack with the flying Emerald Dragonfly for a turn that he missed. So he missed at least 4 damage, maybe 5 damage, and he missed growing his Dervish out of Falling Star range. And those were all play errors on Luke's part.
Yeah.
Well, everything's clear 2020 when you're commentating. It's totally different when you're in the game.
At least they've made it this far, right? We didn't. So.
Right. So let's take a look at these decks and see who's going to sideboard what.
Okay.
For Jonathan's sideboard, what are you going to take out and what are you going to put in here?
So I was mentioning the Falling Star. He's got the 3rd Falling Star. I just think that card is so crucial against the green.
Totally agree.
The 20. What are they? 21 ones.
Yes.
Or even 2/3s with the Pendlehaven. It's still it will kill all those 20 guys aside from I believe the Erhnam Djinn in his deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think that just having 3 of those is
3 falling stars, pretty strong. What are you going to take out though?
Probably just the Felden's Cane.
Right.
That's the first card that comes to mind for me.
Yeah.
Actually, no. Actually, Shatterstorm is probably even less helpful in this matchup than the Felden's Cane. The Shatterstorm does nothing. I don't think he has a single artifact in his deck.
Right. So Shatterstorm comes out. Felden's Cane comes out. Falling Star goes in. Does anything else go in? Maybe a Dervish?
Maybe a Dervish, or maybe he brings a Desert Twister just in case something gets big and out of control, or I don't know. A Dervish might be just as easy to stop his opposing Dervishes attacking him early or something. But.
Yeah, I think he needs more creatures here. Desert Twister is very expensive to cast. He'll have to have land taxed. It'll have to be mid to late game. I would almost say it might be worth it to take out his current Desert Twister and just put in 2 Dervish, because he's going to need those creatures. He does have the 1 of Pendlehaven. It gives him more blockers and or attackers. If he's falling starring and taking out his opponent's army, he'll be able to then get in with his Dervish.
I think I would leave the Twister over the Detonates. At least the...
Oh, Detonates, yes. Yes. Those need to come out. I didn't even see those over there under the Card Apes. You're right. So 2 Detonates come out, 2 Dervish go in, 1 Felden's Cane comes out, the Falling Star goes in, the Shatterstorm comes out, and the 3rd Dervish or the extra Desert Twister.
There you go. That would work either way.
Yeah. So he's got some good answers. All right, let's take a look at Luke's deck. What are you going to sideboard in if you're Luke?
I'm looking at... he has a Falling Star of his own that can take out, apes, elves, scavenger folks on...
Yeah, that definitely needs to go in. Also, that Sylvan Library, that's got to go in. He needs to dig. He needs to be getting aggressive. What do you take out, though?
Yeah, so he's going to struggle against the 4/4 Rug token, and he's going to struggle against the Erhnam Djinns, and those cards don't come out until you're talking like turn active by turn 5 for Jonathan, maybe. So I almost feel like, I know a 6 mana answer is not ideal for a turn 5 4/4 flyer or an active Erhnam Djinn, but it may be the best he can do. He has an Elf of Deep Shadow, so he could cast it on turn 5, a Desert Twister. I think he has to play the Desert Twisters to answer 4/4 flyers.
Yeah, I agree. So we're either looking at taking out the Bloodlust or the Argothian Pixies.
I still like the Bloodlust as a way to pump his Dragonflies and just make something big enough to kill a big guy, to make his little guys big if he has to. I feel like the Scavenger Folks, 4 of them, it's probably his weakest creature of all his creatures. It could be a 2/3, maybe, I don't know, maybe the Pixies are weaker than the Scavengers, because the Scavengers kill what, Ivory Tower, Felwar?
I think he's got to leave the Scavenger Folk in. If he can take out that Felwar Stone, that can cripple Jonathan on mana. He can't get green out of the Felwar Stone. The Ivory Tower is an absolute must. Gotta kill it, and he's got a Jaloom Tome as well. So I would leave all the Scavenger Folk in. I would take out those 4 Argothian Pixies, or possibly the Dervish, depending. He does have a 1 factory, but he's got elves, he's got Card Apes, and he's got a couple Scavenger Folk of his own, Jonathan. So the Pixies are not necessarily ideal here, unless he can get them out early and Jonathan doesn't have a Chain Lightning, a Card Ape, or an Elf, or a Rook. There's so many answers that kill those Pixies.
I'm with you, Chad. And yeah, any of his 2/3s can block that 1 factor.
Yeah.
Too early. So I think the Dervish there might be an argument to say the Dervish is better since if he's on the play.
If he's on the play, yeah, which he will be.
on the draw, the dervish may not, and even if he wins game 2, if Luke wins this, Jonathan being on land tax may opt to draw in game 3.
Right.
So maybe just leave the dervish, take the 4 pixie, and put in, I'm thinking, falling star and 3 desert twister. But the question is, does he want the Sylvan for, like, say, one of those dervish, or does he want to consider a void fate for those fissures? I don't know if he does that or not.
Yeah, the avoid fate with the Fisher. I don't know. Fisher takes double red 3. It's gonna be a late game kind of thing. If in my mind, if Jonathan gets to late game, it's game over anyway, because he'll have all his life gaining strategies and stuff like that. So the avoid fates are not going to help him. They're only going to help him if he can finish off early game or early to mid game, and maybe save like an Erhnam or something, on turn 5 or 6. But by then, he's really hoping to have Jonathan dead.
Right.
So I would just go in the aggro plan. I don't think I'd put in the avoid fates at all. I do want to try and squeeze in that Sylvan Library. I think what I would probably do is pull out 1 Bloodlust and put that Sylvan Library in, go down to 3 Bloodlust.
Okay, that would work.
All right, let's get back over to the match. Let's see. These guys, we're going to go over to... their
I'm at 2650. They just drew.
2650. Wow, they really sideboarded for quite some time, huh?
Yeah. I'm there. Let me know when you're ready.
2650. Okay, I'm at 2650 and on 3. 1, 2, 3.
I still can't get over that swing of game 1. Poor Luke got falling star for 6. I've never seen a falling star for 6.
That is crazy, right? I mean, I've only seen it a couple times. I've done it once or twice, but not very often. And I've played a ton of games where I've tried to do it. Usually you can hit 2, sometimes 3.
Yeah.
Hitting all 6 is just wild.
I almost feel bad for Luke.
Now look at this. Both of these guys, City of Brass is turn 1. That means they both have terrible lands. Terrible land base here. Jonathan getting Luke going first with a Dark Elf, but he does get a Hammerheim. And Jonathan starting off with City of Brass taking damage and the Elf. Now Luke's able to chain that Kurdape, which is very helpful, and then he gets another Elf taking another damage.
I almost would have just swung with that Elf and seen if he would trade that 118 for it first, since he had another before playing the chain. But
yeah. JS joining the gang here. We've got Damien, Chris, and JS observing this game live. A lot of our players will jump in and watch the matches if they're free. It's pretty fun to see these decks in action. Jonathan gets a Forest and another Kurdape.
No, yeah, that's strong for Jonathan, that Forest there. That's big with the 2-3. Wow. Luke's like, what do I do? I need another piece of removal.
Yeah, that Kurdape is such a strong early offender and defender as well. But here's the answer.
Okay,
Damage, green, and an Emerald Dragonfly in the air. That's going to really help Luke.
Luke does not have his Pendlehaven this game, and that hurts so much against the other 2-3 creatures.
Yeah.
Oh, the strip mine coming down, and he sees that Luke is already on Luke's got to be scared when he sees that card. He doesn't have any green mana.
Yeah, if he strip mines that City of Brass, it's going to really cripple Luke here. Yep,
Luke
there
is
he
also
goes.
on a 20 mana deck. Oh, there it is.
Oh, wow. That is really brutal for Luke here. But he's still got the elves. If he can get a forest, he could play a turn 3 Erhnam here.
He needs a Pendlehaven.
Oh, he's not playing a land. Yeah, Pendlehaven would be absolutely perfect here. Oof, he's tapping the table. He's shuffling. He's not in a good spot. 4 cards in hand.
It's amazing how one strip mine can just affect so many games. Like it just like, oh, you're mana screwed now because of one strip mine.
Right.
It really does.
Right, and imagine in Wild Wild West, Four Horsemen, this is why I think you got to play 27, 28 lands in regular Four Horsemen for the original BNR, because you've got 4 strip mines. You're going to be stripping them, and they're going to be stripping you. It's -8 mana, potentially.
Right, a strip mine, just even the presence of one strip mine and cards like Fissures and
Yes.
And Desert Twister is all the more reason to run like a couple more lands.
This is so tough to watch. Luke is not getting any mana, no forest, no Pendlehaven. Meanwhile, Jonathan takes a damage, plays a dervish, and he's on to his next turn.
Neither one of these guys have much mana in their deck.
Well, now you're seeing it, right? When you play this greedy of a mana base, I mean, Luke's in a much better position to handle it, but here, no forest, no Pendlehaven, having to do the city of brass, taking damage and getting it stripped has just absolutely wrecked his mana.
And Jonathan, I think, is favored right here, especially because at least he can draw 2 land tax, 1 Felwar Stone, and 2 Elves of his own, give him 5 other cards in addition to the other 18 mana producing lands still in his deck. So he has 23 cards he could draw that will really help him here.
Right.
Luke only has 2 more elves and like 18 lands. He only has like 20 mana cards he can draw.
Yeah. Jonathan's got a few more outs, but if Luke can get a forest, he can put an Erhnam down, and it'll change the game.
And actually, those other 2 elves won't help Luke here. So technically, he only has like 18 cards he could draw.
Yeah, he needs a green mana source. Okay, so
Count the flyer.
Kurt Ape attacking in, hitting for 2 damage, and then the chain lightning. Okay, Taiga. This may save Luke here. Taiga, green, red, dual land. Taps for green and red. Oh, but it's only a dragonfly, not what he wants to see here. Ooh, he really needed that Erhnam. Or even the, is he running Spinning Slug? I don't remember if he had Spinning Slug. I don't think he did, but Spinning Slug is also super powerful. It was in John DePro's Stompy deck. Would have been ideal here, but he couldn't play it since it's 2 green anyway.
Yeah.
The Erhnam was the answer, and he didn't have it. Kurt Ape hitting in again.
I would block with all 3 of those.
That's what he's.
I would not. Bloodlust.
I would not do this.
Let's see if he has the blood. Well, he has 2 bloodlusts in his deck.
Yeah. Oh God. there it is. Jesus. I would have just let him through and held on to my L's in the hopes that I could get an Erhnam out next time.
Yeah. I just take the 2.
Yeah, I would have just took it, and now he's without his elves. For extra mana to get an Erhnam down. Erhnam is really his only answer here. And Dragonfly number 2 coming out. Not going to help. But at least that Kurt Ape is gone.
Even if he didn't have the Bloodlust, it would have still been a 2-for-1. The Ape would still kill 2 of those guys.
Yeah.
So
he's got to block that. Got to block that Dervish. Can't let him through with. Can't let
another one. So Jonathan listened to you, Chad. He brought in the Dervish plan.
Yes. Yeah, good. I think that was the wise move. Okay, finally, a forest. Poor Luke, man. This is so tough to watch, but it's like turn 8 or 9 and he gets to 3rd mana. That's not great.
Okay, Fire Sprite.
Fire Sprite's 1/1 flyer. At least he's able to block. If only that forest were a Pendlehaven, it would have made all the difference here. Plateau for Jonathan. Now notice Jonathan is just now hitting his 4th land. He stripped 1 land. We're deep into the rounds here, and he's just now hitting his 4th mana. It just shows you how unbelievably lean and greedy these mana bases are.
I think it's turn 6 or 7.
Yeah. Okay. Crumble coming down to take out that Jaloom Tome. Look at this. Luke put in the crumble.
I'm surprised to see that.
Yeah. Gains
a couple artifacts.
That gains 3 life for Jonathan. There is a Pendlehaven and an Erhnam. All right, Luke is on the comeback.
All right, that's something big.
Wow, okay, this can change things. That can block the Dervish. It's 14 to 15, still close on life.
Chad, I think Luke just drew 3 lands in a row, like Taiga, Forest, Pendle in the last few turns.
Yeah.
That's a big deal to get the Pendlehaven and 2 other lands.
It really is. And he had the Erhnam. Now he's able to get in with Erhnam and the Fire Sprites. Meanwhile, Jonathan has played Darkheart. He's only got 1 forest right now, but that could change.
If he hits land tax here, that would be huge.
Yeah, but now he's staring down a Curd Ape as well.
He could live and start. Yeah, I don't know if that will save him, will it?
It's looking good for Luke here, as long as Jonathan doesn't get Ivory Tower, land tax, something like that. But also, getting to 4 mana and playing a Rook would potentially change things, but he's got that Fire Sprite to fly over in the air. Jonathan,
I was just going to say, if he can get to 4 and play a Rook Egg or Erhnam, that would be pretty awesome.
So Jonathan attacks with his Dervish, and Luke lets it through, because Pendlehaven was used to
I don't know. I don't know why you wouldn't block with that 2/3/8.
Well, he's just taking it. He's at 14. He takes a couple damage. If he had the Bloodlust, he might lose that ape. So he's like, I got plenty of life. I'm gonna make sure I keep my ape.
But even then, I would take the 2-for-1 and take the blood. If I had the lust as Jonathan, I would use that to kill the Erhnam.
Yeah, and he's holding back the ape to block this other Dervish anyway. So yeah, I'm kind of surprised he didn't just block the first one.
I don't know what's going on. I'm lost here with these attacks and blocks. Maybe he forgot he had the 8.
He blocked the 1/1. He blocked the 1/1 Dervish. He's attacking in the air, getting in for a few more damage, bringing Jonathan down to 4.
But why would you not swing the Curd Ape there?
I don't know. He's holding
why
it
would
back.
You not block with the 8? That's why I'm lost.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So, meanwhile, Ivory Tower coming down, but it's a little too late. Is it too late? Jonathan can sack a forest and gain 3. How many cards does he have in his hand? Nope. Jonathan is packing it up.
He scooped. He's like, I could take that. I'll still take 4 and go to 7. I don't know. He could have. He probably knew he was just dead in 2 turns.
Yeah. All right. So Luke is able he's able to navigate a very difficult mana-based start that really put him on the back foot. But he climbed out of it. He aggressively got his army out and took down Jonathan in game 2. Let's pause here. And let's go back to the decks.
Okay.
All right, so I will let you. Let's go back to Luke's deck. Just talk us through what you think Luke needs to do from here if he's going to come out victorious with a 2-1 win.
Okay, Chad, we saw Luke bring in the crumbles there, and I was like, whoa, I was kind of befathomed. I was kind of like befuddled by the choice to bring in crumble there. What did you think about the crumble? I kind of thought crumble. We got 4 scavenger folk. He's only got to be concerned about 1 ivory tower or 1 Jalem tome, I think, and there was 1 Felwar. If that sounds correct to you. So yeah, just 3 artifacts. I feel like the 4 scavenger folk would be ample to handle those 3 artifacts. But I could see maybe 1 more crumble. Like maybe if you just want to make sure you kill that Felwar or that tower or that Felwar or that I'm not sure what he boarded out. I don't know if he brought in he may not have brought in the Falling Star or the Desert Twisters. We didn't see any of that. Of course, Luke didn't get to 6 mana, so we don't know if he brought in Desert Twisters. I still think I would rather have the Twisters, even though 6 mana is a lot, for 20 mana and 4 elves.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about the scavenger folk? Did he take the scavenger folk out in game 1 and put crumbles in?
I don't know, but I would still rather have the scavenger over the crumble. I just think I know it can die to chain lightning, but
they can also die to the falling star. So maybe there's some logic there.
Yeah, you can. Maybe I did think that maybe he thought his scavenger folk will die and then he can't get a crumble off. But I would still almost just rather have the Desert Twisters than crumble. That can still kill an artifact or it could kill. And I would leave the scavengers. I think it's like you said, the Pixies. The 2-1 gets stopped by 1 Curd Ape or one elf or one scavenger folk on Jonathan's side, or really any creature in his deck. The 0/3 rock, the Erhnam, the 2/1 can't get through anything. There's no robots here. I think the Pixie still comes out. And
I do like the idea of having maybe one crumble along with the scavenger folk.
Crumble.
So, because it can take out the ivory tower, it can take out that Fellwar stone, or even the Mishra's factory. So yes, I think putting one crumble in and leaving those scavenger folk is strong. And yeah, the 4 pixies got to come out. So you put in one crumble and you put in the 3 desert twisters, and I still think that the Sylvan Library has got to find its way in. Maybe the Maze of Ith. What do you think about swapping out the Maze of Ith and going?
He can't deal with 4/4 flyers too well. I mean, the Dragonfly Lust is like the only plan, and I think he has to have the Maze against Ruck tokens, and even opposing Erhnams are still a problem.
So how does he get that Sylvan in there?
I would rather just see a Dervish or a Bloodlust.
Okay. All right, so going back to Jonathan's deck, what do you think, Tim? What's Jonathan going to do here? Obviously, he put those Dervish in.
And for Luke, I would bring that one Falling Star, because as you saw, those Curt Apes are a problem for him.
Right.
And he can kill his elves too, which are his men of gods. So for John, okay, well, you still got, the Shadow Storm, the 2 detonates. The Scavenger folks are fine here because, he has a Pendlehaven. They're dorks. They can block and attack. But the Shadow Storm, the 2 detonates, I think we said bring that 3rd Falling Star, a couple of Dervishes. And then, I would cut the Felden's Cane. I don't think this is going to be a long, grindy match. These are 2, aggro burn decks. So, the Cane for another Dervish, and then I guess maybe we could make room for one more Dervish, or the Twister. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Just bring out the Artifact Destruction and Falling Star and a couple of Dervishes would be good.
All right. Well, let's get back over to the match. Let's skip ahead here. Find out where these guys are starting.
I got it over at let's see, the timer at 45:20 is where they, after their mulligan. Someone mulligans.
Oh, they're mulligan. Okay, who's mulligan?
I don't know yet. We'll know when we see him put it on the bottom. It's at 45:20. I think Jonathan puts one on the bottom after we start it.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm back at 45:20. Okay. All right. On 3, 1, 2, 3.
Got a full house in here spectating this game 3 of this semi or quarterfinals.
Quarterfinals, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we got Jack Clegg, JS, Damien Bergman, Chris Holzenbeck, whole crew watching this match.
So Jonathan did opt to draw in this game 3, even though he lost game 2. He said, "I'll draw," which is what we kind of thought, right? In the sideboard tech talk, we said he's land tax. He might be on the draw,
right?
But he mulligans to 6 here, Chad. But he's got the Pendle Elf. He's got almost his best starting opener, other than maybe just a Taiga Curt Ape. But
yeah.
Or plateau tax would be good
or
too.
Land tax, right?
Yeah. That's strong. His 1 Pendle with an elf.
And Sylvan coming down.
Oh, and the strip mine. Wow, he's got a strong opener for a 6 card.
Yeah, this is basically almost a perfect opening for Jonathan with his deck here.
Yeah, no Pendle for Luke, but the 1 Pendle drops for Jonathan. So, he taps the Sprite to cast the Ape. Interesting. See, that helped him get that Ape out.
That's right. It did.
It's a big deal. That stops the 2/3 elf.
That's right.
If he chooses to attack. So it looks like Jonathan just takes 1. His hand must be really good. I mean, it's already good, but okay. He's got another mana guy. That's strong for him. He's at 4 mana, Chad.
as soon as he gets an Erhnam or a Rook Egg or a land tax, his deck's gonna take off.
Yeah, if we can play Erhnam next turn. See, Luke can't really answer Erhnam Jin unless he bloodlusts one of his guys or has a Maze of It.
Yeah, that's why those bloodlusts are in there.
Or his own Erhnam. Yeah, his own Erhnam too. Okay, he's got flyers though. That's pretty good.
That'll help if Rook Egg comes down.
So John just drew one. He didn't even activate Sylvan that turn to look.
Oh, he forgot to trigger Sylvan, but
yeah, stuff happens. Right?
Here comes Erhnam Jin. So those elves are really proving their worth here.
I mean, he took 2 damage to cast it. Technically, he could just chump block Erhnam a few turns and just fly over, hit you for 2, and have him at like 8 while he just blocks the Erhnam. If he had a Pendlehaven, that would be so big. Okay. Huh. He's got his own Erhnam, Chad.
Yeah. Luke's keeping pace here, hitting 2 in the air with the flyers.
This is looking really good for Luke right now. And Jonathan's starting hand was not bad for a mulligan at all. So Jonathan needs to see another mana. There you go. A red would have been ideal, or even a plateau would have been awesome. Red-white. He could be holding land tax. He could be holding Ruck Eggs. All those red cards, and he can't cast them because of the mana base. Right? He's playing all those forests for the dark cards instead of like Cities of Brass.
That's right. So we're seeing here what I was talking about earlier in the pregame. Jonathan's greedy mana base is really hurting him in every game.
He's got Erhnams, but look, those flyers, it's just like we said, those 8 flyers are just going to fly right over Ruck Eggs and Erhnam Gens.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to start to look pretty rough if he doesn't see if he doesn't see another big Erhnam himself. Like it's looking really rough for Jonathan, right? Like,
yeah. So I'm thinking for Jonathan at this point, there's an elf. I'm thinking of Jonathan. He has to draw red. He has to cast the Falling Star here, or the Pyrotechnics.
Yeah, he could do Pyrotechnics. He take a couple damage.
Right.
He's looking at his hand.
Red. Oh, that'll buy him a little time.
Diamond Valley will definitely buy him a turn or 2.
Yeah.
Maybe more if
maybe 4 turns.
Yeah, if he's going to be able to block and sack those Erhnams.
I mean,
if Luke gets a Bloodlust though and can hit in the air with a Bloodlust, but he's just
not
hitting
ideal for Jonathan to just sack his Erhnam Gens and do nothing.
Right.
And lose his cards, but hopefully he'll draw into the red by then.
Luke finally gets a Taiga, although he didn't really need it because of those fire sprites saving him and giving him the red. You see that he didn't have red mana here until turn 6 or so.
I would have liked to see like a Dark Heart in Sylvan in Luke's deck. He's got 4 elves. He could easily put some bayous. He's got 2 cities. He could easily run the Dark Heart and have life gain against other red burn decks or really aggressive decks if he needed it. And couple that with that Sylvan.
It could be a good sideboard card. There's the Bloodlust in the air.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking for.
At the very least, sideboard it. But yeah, he could have fit it in his deck pretty easy.
So that's 4, 5, 6 in the air. So Jonathan is forced to sacrifice an Erhnam to gain 5 life. Otherwise, he's going to be out of the game. And it's looking really, really, really tough for Jonathan here. That Diamond Valley it's okay, but it's not really what he was hoping for. It's just prolonging the inevitable.
How did he go to 9? Oh,
he gains 5.
He was at 4?
Yeah, he gains 5, so he goes to 9, and then he takes 4,
6.
5, 6 total.
So he should be at 3. I don't understand. Okay.
And it is not looking good for Jonathan. He's just in a real predicament here. He gets a Dervish, not what he was hoping for. He needed red mana. I guarantee you he's got a Falling Star or Pyrotechnics in hand. And can't play it. Meanwhile, Luke is just going to keep hitting in with these flyers. There's the Pendlehaven for the flying damage.
Jonathan needs his opponent to play a Blood Moon right now.
Right.
Well, I guess he would die if he didn't have the diamond. I mean, he could gain 5 in response, untap, and have red and green mana and black. Oh, there's the chain lightning
Wow.
and the pinball. So he's at 6.
So he's able to sacrifice the other Erhnam and gain 5 more, putting him at 2 life.
Is he just dead here? He needs to drop the falling star. Come on, Jonathan. Where's the red?
He can't find red mana.
Oh, no.
He can't really...
I think it's the mana base just haunting him here.
I really think so. That's what I was worried about.
And, you know, Luke's playing a really aggressive deck with just little 1/1s and 2/2s.
Yeah.
And
there's a Gloom Tome, but that is not what Jonathan wants to see
like
here. There it is. Look at this. 2 pyrotechnics, a rook egg, and a falling star, and a chain lightning. No red mana. Wow.
It happens in Magic, right? It happens.
It happens. Well, but in this case, you know, and this is something with other people that were playing these decks, names need not be mentioned, but, you know, we never saw this happen with some of the other decks, right? Where the greedy mana base seemed to never hurt the other player that was playing this type of deck. But realistically, you can't run 4 colors and 20 lands. It's just not... You're not going to have the consistency over time, and we see that proving itself out here with Jonathan's game.
Yeah, Jonathan had a nice deck. He had a lot of good cards. I like the 1 ofs, the 2 of this, the 1 of that, the artifact hate, the life gain, it just, like you said, if he just cut a couple cards for a couple more cities or a couple more anything, like another plateau and something, a mountain or a swamp, a basic mountain would have been nice too, I think. But yeah, just a couple more lands. It did catch up with him eventually, not having a ton of mana.
Well, unfortunate for Jonathan, but hats off and kudos to Luke Federer. Luke is going to be proceeding on to the semifinals here. This is a really interesting brew that Luke put together. It's red-green, but it's extremely aggressive. The flyers, right, Tim? Those 4 flyers, what do you call them? The fire sprites, being able to convert green to red. It was actually pivotal in this game, and being able to fly over Erhnam gems and hit in the air the Pendelhaven, the Bloodlust. His plan came together. Hats off to Luke for this win.
Yeah, it's a really cool deck, man. He's got a nice, consistent, aggressive deck with a low curve, and those kind of decks we've seen are starting to do very well. I say low to the ground, low to the ground, in that they have a low mana curve, so the cards can come out relatively easy. Not a complicated mana base, and these little flyers with Pendelhaven. Yeah, it's great. I think he's done well.
Yeah, really strong. Nice brew, Luke, and also congrats to Jonathan for making it to the top 8 with his Darkheart Naya deck. I think with some tweaks on the mana base, this deck could be very, very difficult to deal with in the next tournament. So that
I thought Jonathan would go. I thought, if I was betting, I was thinking Jonathan might go all the way this month when I saw he was in the semis again, because I knew he had a good build. But looking at the mana with you, Chad, I think there's just a couple small changes and he could go all the way.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, that brings us to the conclusion for today's tournament number 20 quarterfinals match. Darkheart Naya, Jonathan King goes down in flames, beat out by Luke Federer's Erhnam minions, the red-green aggro. Luke will be proceeding on to the semis, and we'll be having those videos for you here very soon. Thanks for joining me today, Tim. Thanks for doing the commentary with me. Quick plug for Tournament 21. Tournament 21 is going to be a special Spice event. We are returning to the wild, wild west of the Four Horsemen. This event is running May 16th through June 22nd. It'll be our summer tournament to celebrate Four Horsemen turning 3 years old. Check us out at fourhorsemenmagic.com. Sign up for Tournament 21. We're going to be featuring the original 2022 Four Horsemen banned restricted list. This list is crazy. It only had Library of Alexandria, City in a Bottle, Arena of the Ancients, and Golgothian Silex as restricted cards, hence the Wild Wild West name. The banned cards are only the anti-cards, Jeweled Bird, Tempest of Freet, Bronze Tablet, and Rebirth plus Shahrazad. This list, Tim, is going to create some really wild and crazy brews. What are your predictions for Tournament 21 based on this original ban and restricted, Tim?
Chad, thanks for having me to do this match coverage with you, this quarterfinal, or these top 8 of T20. Thanks, this was fun, and hats off to Jonathan and Luke. Congrats, guys. In regards to your question, the Wild Wild West, yeah, I mean, I've seen videos in the past, old school videos of, I think it was the guy, Brian Weissman. You probably heard of him, the deck builder, pretty popular name in old school magic circles. Done a lot of YouTube videos, great magic player, really smart, good player. And I saw in a video he was with one of the like R&D guys from Wizards from way back when. I can't remember this guy's name. It wasn't Garfield. It was somebody else. And he was showcasing an old school deck where he had like 4 Black Lotus, 4 Time Twister, 4 Ancestrals, 4 Time, where there was no, it may have been even more than 4. It's like you have no ban list, and like no restricted list. It was like the wild, like, it was wild old school magic, before there was any rules like this in Magic. You could play a bunch of demonic tutors, whatever. And seeing that video with Brian doing that wild deck of old school, this is what Tournament 21 of the Four Horsemen reminds me of, Chad, is you're going to see people playing, you can play 4 of this, 4 of that, 4 of this, and there's going to be some like 4 mana drains, and like, 4 workshops and 4 strip mines and 4 maze of it and 4 of just everything. There's like nothing banned but anti-cards, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be nuts, man. You know, I've done some practice games, and I've done some practice matches with a couple of the other players too. It's just it's going to be a really dynamic and challenging brewing environment. If you like these kind of challenges, there's going to be ways around these cards. I think Blood Moon is going to be pivotal to stop all the crazy lands. And I think that cards like Crumble and Scavenger Folk to stop all these artifacts, even things like Energy Flux, could be crazy. You mentioned earlier drawing with Sylvan Library will be off the charts. So looking at ways to reduce your opponent's drawing, there's some cards to do that in Legends, and it's just you gotta dig into these sets and come up with something spicy yet something that can also try and mitigate a lot of the craziness. It's a real challenge on the brewing side of things.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be interesting. I'd like to talk more about it later with you. And, perhaps play some games.
Yeah, sounds good, Tim. So join us, everyone, for the Four Horsemen Summer Spice event, returning to the Wild Wild West of the Four Horsemen early days, going back 3 years from when we first started. And join us in this tournament. You can compete for some cool prizes, have a great time, build some spicy brews, and it's going to be a great event. Sign up at fourhorsemanmagic.com/tournament21. And for the Tournament 20 video, thanks for joining us today. We'll wrap this up, and we'll hope to see you guys next time. Thanks for joining me, Tim.
Thanks for having me, Chad.
All right, guys.
Another fun game.
All right, we're signing off. See you next time.